With the final patch of Season 13 underway and the last chance to grind for end of season, let's get you guys set up with a complete update on the best solo carries. We'll be covering 3 champions for every single role that hold some of the greatest carry power for the current meta. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. Making a big push into meta over the past 2 patches and kicking off the top 3 for top lane is Trundle. Buffs from 13.23 along with the added local gold from taking down tier 2 and tier 3 towers have given top lane Trundle a lot of strength. The ease in which Trundle can demolish towers is absolutely ridiculous, and it makes his side lane threat top tier. Laning strength is actually quite underrated since Trundle Q not only provides him with bonus AD, but it also reduces the enemy's AD as well. This means right off the jump at level 1, there are few champions who can beat Trundle, especially due to the fact you're running lethal tempo. Our challenger top laner Strumpus does a really good job at highlighting this in his recent full game commentary, so if you're looking to pick up Trundle, that video can help you a ton. Jax is one of the tougher matchups for Trundle right now, as his dodge kind of completely counters Trundle's kit, so he's a good ban to consider. The standard core build to run consists of a Trinity Force Rush into Ravenous Hydra 2nd and Hullbreaker 3rd. Make sure to grab lethal tempo for the Keystone Rune with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand. Demolish and Bone Plating are 2 of the best secondary options. Another top lane champion fresh off some buffs from 13.23 and making a push into the top 3 for 13.24 is going to be Riven. The AD ratio buffs to Riven Q and R have been amazing since she's a champion who rushes Ravenous Hydra, and once you get that stacked, it provides you with the most amount of AD for any item in the game. Much like Trundle, the game starts at level 1 on Riven. Her dueling strength with Q is incredible, and you should not be AFK waiting for lane to start. Try to spot the enemy out sleeping in a brush, as it can single-handedly win your lane before minions even arrive. 2 of the more difficult meta matchups for Riven right now include Renekton and Garen, so using your ban on either is a good idea. The core build consists of a Ravenous Hydra Rush into Black Cleaver 2nd and Eclipse 3rd. Optimal rune setup is Conqueror with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand, followed by Nimbus Cloak and Transcendence for secondaries. Our first 2 solo carry recommendations were champions that have a ton of early laning strength, but if you're more so looking for a scaling top lane champ, Nasus is the play. Nasus is kind of the polar opposite to Riven and Trundle, as fighting at level 1 with him is generally not very wise. Although mechanically Nasus is not too difficult of a champion, the decision making required to play the champ optimally is quite high. New Nasus players will greed way too hard for Q stacks in lane, get chunked out, and then end up missing a ton of experience. XP should be your main focus until level 6 with Nasus, unless you are in a really easy matchup. If going in for a Q stack means that you'll lose 30% of your health bar, then just sitting back, being patient, and soaking the XP so that you can stay healthy in lane is often the better play. Of course, if you're new to Nasus, this is something you'll just have to get used to with trial and error over time, but if you can play around your spikes, which is level 6, and also Divine Sunderer completion, you're going to set yourself up for success. Champions with strong laning strength are generally best to prioritize your ban on, and Trundle is a good option right now. For the complete 3-item core, you should be running a Divine Sunderer Rush into Frozen Heart 2nd and a situational tank item 3rd. Grab Fleet Footwork for the Keystone Rune with Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand. The best secondaries are Second Wind and Unflinching. Making his way into the jungle top 3 for the first time ever is going to be Brand. After repeated buffs, Brand is now in a really great spot for solo queue, and especially for the lower ranks. The full clear is completely mental, as Brand can hit level 4 around the 3-minute mark. The only weak point to the champion is how susceptible he is to invades, so having you or your teammates get an early ward down on the enemy's buff is key. Using your ban on a jungler who is more likely to look for invades like Rengar is a good idea. To help with early ganks and make the champion's mid to late game teamfight presence much stronger, look to run Ghost instead of Flash. Ghost allows Brand to be way more shifty, kiting around in fights instead of just being a sitting duck if he misses his spells or is waiting on cooldowns. Ghost, coupled with the slow from Rylai's, provides a really crazy amount of spacing power for the champion in fights. The build that you'll want to run evolves around a Liandry's Rush into Rylai's 2nd and Zanya's 3rd. The rune page is Dark Harvest with Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter, followed by Free Boots and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. Evelynn has been one of the most consistently powerful solo carry junglers throughout all of Season 13, and she cracks the list for the final patch of the season. The strength that you provide your team just from picking Evelynn and always being a threat from stealth makes her a very worthwhile champion to learn. You're never really out of a game when playing Evelynn because her catch power and ability to steal objectives is better than the majority of junglers. Evelynn R being an execute gives her some of the most ridiculous Baron stealing power in the game, and it does require having flash available, but if you can get over the Baron wall and time your smite with your R, few junglers can burst harder than that. You always need to be thinking ahead to get the most out of Eve. Paying constant attention to wave states and where the enemy team is on the map will help you to be in the correct spot to strike. For example, example, if you notice there is a massive wave that is about to crash bot lane, someone on the enemy team is likely to go and grab that. So if you can posture around mid lane and look for an outnumbered fight, it's a great way to catch the enemy team sleeping. Meta champions with strong early game impact are who you should prioritize your ban on the most when picking Evelynn, so Lee Sin is a solid choice right now. Build for Evelynn is a Rocket Belt, Rush into Rabadon second, and then Void Staff third. In most games, you're going to want to Mage Eyes as well, so picking up a Dark Seal on your first base is key. Rune Page for Eve is Electrocute with Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter. Roll with Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm for secondaries. Locking down the final solo carry spot for jungle in 13.24 is going to be Nocturne. Noc has been up there competing with Briar as the best solo queue jungler in recent patches, but now that Briar is nerfed again in 13.24, it puts more separation between them. The ability for Nocturne to start a fight in an instant and punish mispositioning is what gives him so much power for solo queue. You don't even need to be in exactly the right spot all the time. You just have to be aware of what's happening on the map and press R when you see that the enemy team is split. With this heavy split push centric top lane meta that we are seeing right now, snowballing your Hullbreaker top lane champ and then hovering them in the side lane is a really great win condition in a lot of games. This is what makes Nocturne so great, especially for the lower ranks, as you can bait the enemy team into fights that they think they are winning, but you just fly in with your R and completely turn the tables. With a peel champion like Janna coming back into meta, she's a good ban for Nocturne, as playing fights is much more difficult against her. Standard build for Nocturne is a Stridebreaker Rush into Black Cleaver second and Death's Dance or Maw third. You'll want Lethal Tempo with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace for primary runes. Optimal secondary page is Eyeball Collection and Ultimate Hunter. Talon has already been one of the better mids in recent patches, and with a buff for 13.24, he's moving into the top 3. The early kill threat and roaming power of Talon give him so much influence over games, especially when he completes Ghostblade. Talon can get from one place to another, finding catch plays faster than the majority of mids. One thing to take note of is that since Doran's Blade was buffed, it's been outperforming the Longsword with refillable potions start on Talon, but only 40% of Talon players are running it. Talon wants as much early game power as possible, and with Doran's Blade as strong as it is now, it's too good to pass up on. Vex is one matchup that can be of more difficulty for Talon, so she's a good ban option. The fear and shield that Vex possesses makes it more difficult for Talon to succeed. Sample 3-item core that will work for most games consists of a Ghostblade Rush into Prowler's Claw second and Axiom Arc third. For runes, it's First Strike with Free Boots, Dematerializer, and Cosmic Insight. Run Sudden Impact and Treasure Hunter for secondaries. Sylas has taken the mid lane meta by storm over the past few patches and is our second solo carry mid of 13.24. The fact Sylas is this mix of an assassin and a fighter gives him so much strength for solo queue. When you get ahead, a full combo can easily delete squishies, but then the ability for Sylas to remain in a fight and outlast enemies with the sustain from his W makes him super lethal. Of Sylas' 10 most common solo queue matchups right now, there's not a single one who he has a negative win rate against. The only champion who sits just outside of the top 10 who you're going to want to use your ban on is Vex. Don't sleep on the level 1 trading power of Sylas. Many mid lane players who are not super familiar with the Sylas matchup will give you a free window at level 1. You want to try and secure the first 3 melee minions, but after they're gone, if the enemy is staying in your E range, looking for a quick trade can get you off to a great start. The build we would recommend you run on Sylas for the most amount of raw solo carry power consists of a Night Harvester Rush into Shadow Flame second. You also pair this build up with Electrocute for the Keystone rune so that you can one-shot those squishy champions with ease. Rounding out Season 13 as one of the best solo queue mages is Syndra. The fact Syndra has catch power, burst, and consistent DPS potential built into her kit gives her so many different ways to carry. The versatility is super nice because it allows Syndra to make an impact regardless of what the enemy comp is looking like. You've also got amazing versatility in regards to builds right now, as you can go Ludens into Shadow Flame against a full squishy comp, while Liandry's into Cosmic Drive works amazing against more bruisers or tanks. To really amplify Syndra's scaling power to the max, you want to be running First Strike for the Keystone rune. Now, it's not all sunshine and roses with Syndra. She does have her weaknesses, and being an immobile mage is one of them. This means playing into more slippery assassin champions can be of more difficulties, so using your ban on Fizz or Sylas is a good plan. Don't be hesitant around using your teleport to help you survive early in lane. You want to be getting as many passive stacks as possible early on, so if you run out of mana, don't just stick around in lane, as you'd be halting your scaling potential by doing so. There's zero point in using teleport anywhere else but back to lane prior to 10 minutes. On top of the ADC meta for yet another patch and rounding out Season 13 is the best solo queue ADC is Vayne. Ever since players caught on to the strength of Trinity Force Vayne, she's been riding high as a phenomenal carry. Tanks or squishy comps, it doesn't matter for Vayne right now, as she can excel into whatever comp the enemy throws at her. You can run the Trinity Force build against more bruisers or tanks, and opt for the Ghostblade build when into heavier squishy comps. Just make sure that with the Trinity Force setup, you're pairing it with Lethal Tempo, while Fleet Footwork is best with the Ghostblade core. Getting through lane is one of the bigger hurdles for Vayne, so using your ban on a strong laning ADC like Caitlyn or Ashe is a good idea. For some reason, a lot of Vayne players are failing to adapt to a Q max being far superior to W max, as around 50% of Vayne players are still maxing W first. Q max makes way more sense when building Trinity Force, so look to give it a go if you haven't already. For the second solo carry ADC of the patch, we have Twitch. Twitch is definitely one of the more underrated ADCs right now, as he's got one of the most lethal teamfights. There's been a new build popping up recently where after rushing Blade of the Ruined King, you go into 2 AoE splash items, being Hurricane and Titanic Hydra, to really bolster Twitch's 5v5. The added health from Titanic Hydra is really nice as well, so that Twitch is not as vulnerable to getting instantly one-shot. Janna coming back into meta for support is really nice for Twitch as well, and if you're looking to duo up with someone for the end of season grind, playing the Twitch with Janna duo is a great idea. If you're walking back to lane and notice the enemy mid pushed up quite far, or if you have bot wave shoved in yourself, always be looking for roam plays mid. Oftentimes it's not going to be in the 2v2 to where you gain your advantages with Twitch. Finding those roam opportunities is where he can really feast. Early in lane is where Twitch can struggle the most, so using your ban on Ashe or Caitlyn is good value. Miss Fortune is going to be the all-around most reliable ADC to end off Season 13, especially if you're in Plat or below. With the lethality builds being the most optimal right now, anyone can pick up MF and start winning games. Your first 2 purchases should be Ghostblade and Boots of Swiftness, and when you have these completed, combined with the movement speed from Miss Fortune W, her mobility is actually pretty nuts. Sure, the champion lacks a gap closer, but she's speedy, quick, and very hard to catch with all the bonus movement speed. After rushing the Ghostblade, it's the Collector second, and then Cyrilda's Grudge third. The rune page consists of First Strike, Magical Footwear, Biscuits, and Cosmic Insight for primaries. Optimal secondary runes are Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm. Champions that can dive on top of you from 2 screens away are always good ban choices for MF, so Rakan or Nocturne are who we'd recommend for the current meta. After being buffed 2 patches in a row and a very unique setup emerging, Janna has become the best enchanter for solo queue. If you guys caught our OP builds video that we released earlier this week, you would have seen the Halo Blades Janna tech that has been on the rise. HOB Janna has so much more lane presence, as your ability to poke out melee supports is way better than before. It was a few patches back where Riot gave Janna a new passive to where it converts her movement speed into bonus on hit damage. So by running Halo Blades, you get to take advantage of this buff to the max. Here's a look at what the entire rune page is looking like, as you take Halo Blades with Cheap Shot, Zombie Ward, and Relentless Hunter, followed by Celerity and Scorch. Our challenger coach, Kybit, has just completed a full game commentary playing the Halo Blades Janna support, and it's up on our website for you guys. So not only is Janna's laning phase much stronger now, but she still has all the great peel power in her kit that makes her one of the best protectors in the game. A really underrated build to run with this setup consists of rushing Imperial Mandate and then going into Shirelia's second. Janna loves playing into melee engaged champions, but she struggles more against ranged supports that can just sit back, so Senna is a good ban to use when picking Janna. When it comes down to a support who can carry through damage and not just utility, there's few better options than Senna right now. Senna's been absolutely amazing ever since the anti-snowball patch from 13.20, and even though Riot directly nerfed her once, she's still in a great spot. With Senna, it's all about getting as many passive stacks as possible while not going too aggro to the point where you end up dying. It's a fine line to toy with, but a setup that allows you to do this a little easier revolves around running the Resolve tree as your secondary rune page. Taking Bone Plating and Revitalize will give you some extra durability for lane, which helps you take more aggressive trades. To make things even easier, look to use your ban on a meta pick support like Blitzcrank or Pike. With Senna, it's imperative that you're swapping between Exhaust and Heal as your secondary summoner based on what your ADC takes. If your ADC wants Cleanse or Ghost, then Heal works amazing on Senna. Vice versa, if your ADC wants Heal, then that's where you can run Exhaust. The build that you should be running on Senna consists of an Umbral Glaive Rush into Ghostblade second and Rapid Fire Cannon third. Rounding out the top 3 for support and our final solo carry of the video is Zyra. Zyra's a phenomenal support for solo queue because she doesn't rely on her ADC to be super competent in order to win games. Take the kills on Zyra and be the carry, as you should be topping the damage charts in the majority of your games. Where Zyra really excels is where she can lock down a choke point and force the enemy team into her. In the mid game, getting vision set up around the next objective well before it even spawns is very important. This way you can try to catch the enemies out as they're walking through the corridors, as Zyra ultimate in a tight space can do a ton of work. Champions with hard engage can give Zyra issues, so banning out a meta champ like Rakan is a good idea. Build you should prioritize on Zyra is Liandry's Rush into Rylai's second and Demonic Embrace or Zanya's third. Comet is the optimal keystone rune with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch. Best secondary page is Taste of Blood and Relentless Hunter. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent Challenger players into ELO Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So that's all for this one, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Good luck with your end of season climbs, and we'll see you back soon.